In this video, let's clean up our header section by implementing a Angular material toolbar component. We'll add a toolbar header to our side nav, this navigation section over here. The toggle setting, we'll add a header over here. We'll call it something like settings. And then up here, we'll move the dashboard in between these two buttons, push the toggle button off to the right, and then add a toolbar within this top header section for the main content. But before we begin implementing anything, let's look at the documentation to see how we can implement this toolbar. And within the Components tab, and then Toolbar Component, and we'll go with a simple single row toolbar, and we'll add to our template this mat-toolbar element. But before you use any Angular material component, we need to bring in the module within our TS file. I'll copy this example right here, this import, and we'll set up our pages TS file first. Inside of the TS file, I'll add in the import at the top, and then make sure you also add it to the imports array, and I'll add it towards the end here. And that's all we need to do within the TS file. Moving on to the HTML, we'll add in the toolbar within the left side navigation. We can start there. I'll add that at the top. And then just rename it to something like menu. This will be our main navigation. And that's all we need to do within the side nav. Next, we'll move on to the right setting panel. I'll add in the snippet within there. Again, renaming it to something like settings for our settings panel. And then within the main content area, we'll need to shuffle around some code here. So at the top of the section, I'll add the toolbar. I'll replace this span with this. I'll cut this out of here and replace this span within the toolbar. That's our breadcrumb. This toggle button, the main navigation, I want on the left. We'll be replacing this with an icon. We're updating it to be an icon later. But for now, I'll just add it at the beginning. And then this last one, the settings, I want this to be on the far right. So I'll cut that out and add that towards the end. And then this router outlet, you want that to remain outside of the toolbar. You do not want to place that within the toolbar. And that's how you want the main section to look like. Before we add in our spacer to move this button to the right, let's view it in browser. And now within our header, we have a little bit of margin up here at the top being added thanks to our toolbar. And it bumps off the bottom a little bit from the content. And that goes for our menu. We now have a menu title within our left navigation. And then also our right sidebar settings panel has a settings title as well. Now let's move this toggle settings button to the far right. And they have an example within the documentation on how we could do that within the toolbar. If we go to the documentation and then scroll up to the first example, and you'll notice they have an icon that's off to the right. We're trying to do something very similar to that. If we go to the example, and then right below the My App, they have this spacer right here. I'll go ahead and I'll copy that. And then within the CSS, they set that to use the flex, and that will do the same thing. So right below the breadcrumb, we'll add in that spacer, and then remove the example. I'll just have spacer as the class name. And that's all we need to do within the HTML. Then we'll update the CSS. And right towards the end here, and we'll remove the example again. We'll just call it spacer, that'd be fine. And then I'll add some space here. And that should move the button to the far right. And now the toggle setting button is on the right. This is looking really good. Now let's add a background color to our toolbars. And we'll use the toolbar override to do that. And we'll do that in the next video.